What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shooky from Shook Earth Media, and today we are talking about Halo, the Paramount Plus TV show. I just finished watching the first episode, and we're gonna do a little review from the perspective of a huge Halo fan. Played all the games many times, and I'm a huge fan of the lore and stuff like that. Even though I've only read a couple novels, but I like to, read up on it and stuff like that. So, big Halo fan, and this show is not really designed to be like a 100% replica. It's just kind of its own take on it. So from that you can gather, how a lot of my opinions on this are going to go. And so it's a little mixed. I mean, there's things I like in the show, things that I'm not sure about, things that I definitely don't like. But it's gonna your mileage is gonna vary depending on if you're not a Halo fan, then a lot of my issues with it might not bother you. I think the biggest problem with it from the perspective of somebody who's not a Halo fan is that seems I think it would seem a little generic if I wasn't into the lore already. So I don't know, it does a great job at communicating with this first episode, like what is unique and interesting about Halo that other franchises might not have. I'm not sure that this episode is like the best communicator of that, but at the same time, like if you don't have the Halo fan thing, I think you might be a lot more on board with some of the later storylines and stuff that I kind of could take or leave. But I mean, the first 10 minutes are my absolute favorite. I gotta say, I actually liked how this opens up. And I'm okay with them using the whole backstory of the Spartans and how they were created to fight the rebels, not to fight the Covenant, and seeing like a Covenant first encounter situation. I like the ideas, and I think I even said it something similar in one of my reviews of the trailers that I like the idea of starting a show there and going through the whole progression of how the series goes. So I'm not really against it from that perspective. Now, of course, we already know it has its own timeline. It is not in canon with the games and stuff. And that's just where it's going to come down to your preference as a fan. See, I'm usually okay with adaptations taking a different route. For example, Walking Dead on my channel, the TV show. Even though I'm a little bit more critical of it lately than I was early on in the show's run, but the early on in the show's run, some of the best seasons were they had moments where they're very faithful, but for the most part, it's a whole different experience. A lot of the same story beats, but just completely different scripts, basically. So I'm not totally against that idea. So I don't want it to sound like, oh, just because it's not exactly the games, whatever. But I would have preferred an in canon show, in general. So you just need to understand that from my perspective. But I'm not totally against that, not doing that. But when it comes to Halo, I feel like the universe is big enough, and I want the normies who don't play games to know what Halo is and to have a good conception of what Halo is. And I don't this show I don't think really like provides that. As like a first step, especially calling it Halo. This is the definitive Halo show. It just I don't know that it's the best at nailing what the sense of awe. And we're not even going to see the Halo first season, probably. Maybe like the cliffhanger is finding Halo. So, calling it Halo is people are going to be like, "What's the Halo ring?" But just to go back to things I like. I like this setup scene. Establishing the normal world on this insurrectionist colony, understanding some of their perspectives and UNSC and all of that. And I like the dynamic. This guy's a cool character. He's a war veteran and has experience, and he has a nice little monologue. So I like all this stuff actually. Oh, just a sidebar. I'm gonna put a timestamp on the screen so you can skip this little rant if you want, but I just need to take a sidebar about Paramount Plus. Just to say that as you can see, the playback quality on my browser is very poor, and there's no way in browser to up the resolution. And I don't have this issue with buffering for Netflix, for AMC Plus, any of the other streaming services that I've used. I've even used CBS All Access, which is the predecessor to Paramount Plus, and I've used Showtime's web browser through the browser. Never had an issue. So it's a playback issue. It's on the technology side. So that's just an aside. We're getting back to the Halo review, but I had to watch it on my phone to see the high quality version, which is like a really small screen, so not ideal. So maybe if you have like a game console, a new one, they have a version of the app on there. I don't know. Maybe it works better. But the web browser on multiple browsers I tested, it's just like really super grainy. So apologies in advance for this footage. But yeah, I mean, Kwan, I think is her name, and she's a big character. It's not really how it was described in those leaks that I covered. I have to say, I actually kind of like her character in this. So, I don't really have an issue with that. This whole scenario of like, oh, they're off partying in the woods somewhere, these insurrectionist kids, and then they get shot up by the Covenant. As far as a first encounter, I don't know. I guess the Covenant is definitely ruthless. I don't know. I feel like we could have done something better, but I honestly really like, the battle scene and how they set up the tension and everything ramps up. And they think it's the UNSC, but she knows it's not. And it's a fine battle scene. So, and here we'll get into some of the things as a Halo fan. If you're not a Halo fan, you're not going to care. So, when it comes to the way it looks, a lot of the show looks pretty on point in matching the designs. And we got Master Chief. I'm not enough of an expert to tell you which versions of the Halo. Every Halo game has slightly different designs, so I can't really. It looks kind of like Halo 3 Master Chief to me, like helmet wise and stuff like that. So I like the way it looks, the way it sounds. In the trailers they use a few more sounds from the games, and they use a few sounds from the games here, some gun sounds and stuff like that. But they redo a lot of it, and the stuff they redo, it's not like bad or anything. It's just not as cool as the original versions to me. And the music as well is like they have some choirs at the end, but for the most part it's kind of like a generic score, whereas Halo, introducing Halo to a wider audience, I would have rather hear some of that iconic Halo score. So those parts were a little lacking to me, maybe the sound. And the effects of the elites don't necessarily look great up close. So I will say that. But like everything that's filmed, the sets are cool. I mean, yeah, there's a Tacoma in the background or something, a car. But it's really, I look at it as a little nitpicky to go on about the car. So yeah, I like this scene, Master Chief dropping in last second. I would have liked some kind of setup as to how the UNSC knows about the Covenant, or I don't know. So they just kind of show up right at the exact time, and it would have been nice to know like how they know or something like that. But it's not really important. But yeah, I like that. There's no survivors except for the Quana character, and the Spartans save her and all of that. So, 20 minutes into the episode, I'm pretty much liking, most of the stuff here. So I'm happy with how it looks. And it's pretty late into the episode to have the title sequence, I just realized. Like 18 minutes in. But it's kind of cool. It's okay. But yeah, I like the opening. The opening 20 minutes are the best part to me. And the rest of it, they try to add in a bunch more storylines. They're trying to be more into the politics of the UNSC, and there's this question of, are they a moral force? Are they doing bad things? And I guess there's a bit of that in Halo lore when it came to dealing with the insurrectionists and stuff, but they do some things at the end of the episode, like they say that this girl survivor, they set her to be executed, and they have like Captain Keys from the games. He's in the show, and he's agreeing with it and arguing why it's necessary. And I just don't view that for as a. I don't think of Captain Keys from the games as a guy who would be willing to do that, or think it's a good idea, or support it, or yeah, I don't know. I feel like he would have an issue with that. So, you know, I'm not really into, and they have this whole subplot about I have another point to get here, but I'm getting distracted. So they find this object, and then Master Chief touches it, and he has flashbacks, and they're adding a backstory, a hidden past that Chief has, and all of this is all new to the show. It's not in the games or anything or lore as far as I'm aware. And this is why they wanted to have it be their own timeline. So I will say, you know, again, I've discussed, you know, I'm okay with having a different timeline. It's not my preference, but I'm okay with it. But what they're doing it for is this whole giving Master Chief a hidden backstory, letting him take off his helmet, and they do an AWOL him disobeying storylines in this first episode, which I never really was big on those storylines of Master Chief in Halo 4 and 5, where he's just disobeying orders and stuff. And we get that already, but you know, with the UNSC, what they wanted him to do, I understand. But you know, I'd rather the UNSC kind of be the good guys, you know, even if the rebels have their reasons why and they make sense and stuff. I still would prefer, you know, if the UNSC was a bit just more the good guys. But so yeah, he touches this artifact, and he's like the special one that this thing reacts to. I mean, nobody else touches the object in this episode, so I don't know, maybe it's just humans in general to activate it. But based on the way it's like written and cut, it really feels like, with the fact that memories of his are unlocked by this, I feel like he's supposed to be the bonded with this object. And I don't know, I kind of view those as like generic sci-fi things. Not that I'm against it, but just adding that to Halo just seems a bit unnecessary. I don't really know what it does for the storyline. So, yeah, the whole artifact thing and the flashback thing, you know, I'm not really into that. And that's the whole reason why it's not a canon show. So that's where it ultimately, I'd probably, you know, give it the thumbs down from a Halo fan perspective. But it's fun to watch, so I don't want to hate on it too much. And this is Reach, by the way, and I love the way Reach looks, so that's cool. But we got, you know, Halsey here, and she has her own interests, and here we get into a lot of the politics of the UNSC. She has her own interests. She's like developing things in secret, and you know, there's talk about where the funding's going, and that she supposedly stopped development, but she's still making Cortana and all of that. And you know, it'd be fine. And I don't know, I'm just not that interested in it. But it's not like bad. It's just like, is it? I don't know. I just don't find it that interesting. And then we're here at Covenant Command, and here we're introducing. Keep in mind, this is for people that haven't played the games, as more so than it is fans, to be honest. So, them just introducing the Covenant, and in the first episode, they like this whole storyline of a human on the Covenant side. It's not in any of the mainline games, and please correct me if there's a book or something that I haven't read where there's a human on the Covenant side. But that's not part of the lore either, and introducing it to this new audience as, oh, there's a human on their side, I think it's confusing for season 1 plotline. And honestly, I'm just really not. Maybe later down the road it could make things more interesting to have a human on their side, especially if it was somebody we knew before, you know, betrayal or something. But just to introduce the Covenant as this, you know, you know, I'm not that into it. The Prophet looks okay though. He looks like the designs from the games. So yeah, I mean, you know, the CGI is maybe not quite as on point as I was hoping, but you know, it's not bad. I mean, I do like the designs of the ships for sure, the sets and stuff, and the way that the armor looks, and there's, you know, a lot of great production design stuff. So I don't want this review to sound like full negativity. And, you know, ultimately I do kind of like this bond between Quan and Master Chief and all that. You know, he respects her in a way, but they're keeping her like kind of prisoner. But I don't even know. Like, I feel like and UNSC is like a military official thing. They would have let her clean up. She's has a bloody face for a while. Um, oh, I just remembered something from earlier that I just want to throw in here with the sounds. When I was mentioning the sounds, and they did use the sound of the cloak from the games when he goes invisible. But just being a purist in the game, see, they use something from the game's perspective, and then they use it wrong though. That's not the sound that plays when they that's the pickup sound from multiplayer. And then the fact that that sound plays again when the cloak turns off, and that's not how it works either. But yeah, and also Master Chief gets shot, but you don't see the shield like you do in the games with Spartans. So that was like, so there's a lot of things, it looks almost the same, but the effects, it's not entirely on point. So they wanted to look good for Halo fans, but they didn't go all the way with that. So that's one of the things. Like in multiplayer, you see it when the shields drop, and it would be how Master Chief's armor would work too. When the shields drop, there's like a flash of light, and all of that. They try to do it with this heads up display thing, and the heads up display thing, that was one thing they're trying to do a shout out to the games, but in the games, like this heads up display here is designed for gameplay use and not necessarily like representative of in universe what would make the most sense. That's just like, I'm having trouble pulling it up here, but you guys know what I mean. They got the shield bar at the top, which makes sense, I guess. And then, but this is how like a video game looks, So that's just a nitpicky thing, but that's all we need to say about that. But yeah, I like Quana and Master Chief's conversations, and then even this. I mean, they got Miranda Keys in it, and it's a name from the games, but I'm not sure how much she's the same character. I guess we'll find out. She's involved. She's in charge of technology or something, Covenant technology. Yeah, I don't know if that was involved in the games at all, but basically their conversation devolves to, they want to use her for propaganda videos and explain that the Covenant is the real threat, and do a video about why the rebels should team up with the UNSC against the Covenant and all that. And that's like the right thing to do, right? In terms of stopping human destruction. But Kawano doesn't want to do that because her dad was super against UNSC and all that, and she ends up kind of threatening to make stuff up about the situation. And this is when they decide to kill her instead, and make up a story about that. And and I'm not necessarily against that storyline. I just don't really. I want the UNSC to be the good guys. Maybe they have a couple shady things, but we're already. Oh, they're like evil right off the bat. I mean, that's pretty twisted, So yeah, and we get Chief is in his feelings. I feel like it's a little too early to have Chief in his feelings. But again, we're doing the whole memory thing. This is Keys here. I like the actor for Keys. I forget what I've seen him in before, but good actor. But the two Keys have this heart to heart, and this is when it's real like on the nose writing as far as I'm concerned, but they're just debating the ethics of like killing the girl and all that, and he argues it's for the greater good. And I just don't feel like that's what Keys from the games, what his opinion would have been. So I don't know. I guess it's all your opinion on this is probably going to change depending on if you give a shit about the game staying consistent or not. So some people are probably going to like this. This scene, I understand why it's here. It didn't really work for me, but that's okay. And then we kind of end on Master Chief and Quan escaping. They're like, oh, we're gonna kill her, and then Halsey is on the Chief's side no matter what, and yeah, Quan threatens Chief, and then he takes, this is when they see, they know how big of a moment it is, the Matt taking the mask off thing, and they do it as well as they could have cinematography wise and setting it all up and all of that. And then but they know it's a big moment, especially like again introducing Halo to a new audience. They wouldn't necessarily be aware that Master Chief has existed for over 20 years and has never taken his helmet off on any visual medium. So I they at least respect that it's like a big moment, and it kind of works nice writing wise because he's explaining like, oh, you know, the titanium whatever armor, you won't, your bullets won't get through, so you have to shoot me up top. I mean, it works dramatically, but I don't know, you know. I actually I like the actor for Chief. He does seems to do a pretty good job communicating with a little bit. You know, he doesn't say as much, but yeah, I mean, do I really like having UNSC be evil and Master Chief rebelling against them right away? And that's the first episode. You know, I don't know. Your mileage is going to vary. I didn't want Master Chief to take his helmet off. I didn't really want a non-canon show. I don't want this backstory. The overarching plot for the season, I mean, this episode in and of itself, you know, I did enjoy watching it, and it's just cool to see like, you know, there is a Halo show, but it's not as faithful as I would want. I don't think it's a great jumping on point for the franchise if you've never seen it before. Um, so you know, and that's who they're trying to reach with this, is people who have never seen Halo before. I don't feel it's the best representation of Halo. So, but it's gonna be hard to recommend games to people that just don't play games, you know, and that's all there is to it. But unfortunately, I mean, I think this means we might not get like a faithful Halo show or movie or whatever, you know, because they're doing their own thing. So it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. That's my review of episode 1. Let me know if you guys want me to continue to cover this. This video does decently in the algorithm. I'll do more. But yeah, I don't know if I would keep watching if it was just me. But let me know what you guys think, and I hope to hear from you. If you guys liked it, let me know what you liked about it. If you didn't like it, or if there's something I noticed or got wrong, please let me know in the comments. Would love to hear from you. And with that, it's been your boy Shuggy, and this is Halo Paramount Plus episode 1. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Hit the like if you like, and sub for more content. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everybody. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.